Sober Talk with Brother Brandon, the Raging Cajun. It's the weekend, baby.
Welcome back to another episode of Sober Talk with Brothers Brandon, the Raging Cajun. It's the weekend, baby. Man, I hope everybody's having a beautiful week. I hope everybody's having a beautiful day. I know it's been cloudy in Bismarck, but we got some sunshine this evening, and that is great. But today is
Narcan Awareness Day.
National Narcan Awareness Day. So just so everyone knows, uh, Narcan is pretty much free. Lots of people are spreading it through their communities. It's good to have it in your car, in your purse, in your house, uh, in your fanny pack, just in case you run across somebody with this uh, terrible disease that a lot of us have battled, and some was conquered and some haven't conquered. But tonight's show is being sponsored by New Freedom Center and Tied for Second Sober Living. Beds are available. Just call 701-527-4000. Also, tonight's show is being sponsored by Maya's Mission out of Carrington, North Dakota. If you're interested in hearing a great story or connecting with Shani, um, look up Maya's Mission. Also, tonight's show is being sponsored by Serenity Bridge, Sober Living, right here in Bismarck, North Dakota. Also, tonight's show is being sponsored by Prairie Recovery Center in Raleigh, North Dakota. If you're looking for a bed, contact Prairie Recovery Center. Also, tonight's show is being sponsored to the Ridge in Fargo, North Dakota. Uh, they're having a mental health conference, recovery re-entry, June 17th. And I have been asked to be one of the keynote speakers. So check it out. It's all about peer support and being in the community. Also, tonight's show is being sponsored by Painless Window Cleaning right here in Bismarck, North Dakota. Also, tonight's show is being sponsored by Resurrection Tattoo and Preferred Heated and Air. But I want to thank all the other sponsors and anybody that supports Sober Talk or had made a donation so we can do events. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and we got to keep spreading the message. But I got a special guest tonight. I got Maya's Mission.
Yay!
How's it going?
Good. I'm so honored to be here.
I'm glad that you're here. I know you just had surgery, and I really appreciate you coming out the house.
Yes, all my board members out there don't get mad for me working.
So, how was your day?
It's going great. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Well, I'm glad that you made it.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people on our posts this week on Monday
Yeah,
about what a great collab we were doing here.
right.
So
Yep, that
I think
is
there's a lot of people eager to listen.
eager. I like.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, um, Maya's Mission. When was that created? What year?
Well, we actually just officially this year, January. However, it's kind of Godisms, how we see God in our life,
Mhm.
how things happen. I wanted to do something in honor of my daughter
Mhm.
the day after she died.
Okay.
And I was blessed with a very wonderful individual that was able to help me get it off the ground and get going. And so officially it's been in business. It was Providence Foundation prior.
Okay.
So we just kind of rolled it over and changed it, and it's Maya's Mission.
Okay. So, where are you originally from?
Originally I'm from Minot,
Minot, the Magic
the
City.
Magic City. I
Okay.
don't know how magic it is anymore sometimes, huh?
Have you ever went on the Air Force Base?
I did. I lived on the Air Force Base for a while.
Okay.
Mhm.
And how was that?
Well, I didn't get much visitors.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was lonely. Yeah.
Yep. I was in the Air Force for 7 years. So I traveled around the world, and uh, the military made me a sport drinking alcoholic.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Everybody's story is different, but I can guarantee you about 90% of the people that's been in the military watching this, they can relate. So you were born in Minot, grew up in Minot?
Yep, around there. And then I got married and we had our kids in Minot.
Okay.
In 2015, I did move away from Minot.
Okay.
Um, I was a paramedic in Minot for many years. That's where I started my career. And it was just starting to get where I just needed to move. I needed a change. And so in 2015, we moved to Carrington.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you still carry your paramedic scissors with you at all
I do
times?
not. I
No.
do not. I will be a paramedic for the rest of my life. It runs in my blood.
Where
So
did you go to school for that?
in Minot.
In Minot?
Yep.
Okay. And how long were you? Is it an EMT?
I actually took my EMT certification and then I went straight to paramedic. So I worked as an EMT while I went to school. Then I worked in Minot and then I worked Life Flight.
Okay. So what's
So
the difference between an EMT and a paramedic?
a lot of school.
Okay.
And we can do a lot more invasive procedures.
Okay, so paramedic is higher than an EMT.
Yeah, paramedic is the highest that you can go in EMTs.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, two kids?
I had four.
Okay.
So I have three other children, and then I have three stepchildren.
Okay.
We have a blended family. I think you guys are kind of the same way, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So we have a blended family. Um, Maya was the second to the oldest of the kids.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I played the stepdaddy role before in some toxic relationships.
yeah,
Some kids were like, "You ain't my daddy."
it's definitely a challenge.
Right.
It's really definitely a challenge, and um, it's been a journey. I'll tell you that. So
Amen to that.
yeah.
Um, so, um, how was Maya growing up?
She was a Spitfire. She definitely took after me. She was social butterfly. When she was young, we actually thought she was deaf.
Okay.
She was super loud like you,
Hmm.
but she wasn't deaf.
You think I'm deaf?
No, it's loud. You're always so loud and boisterous. She's
Well,
not.
working around jets and airplanes so long, I'm kind of like,
Yeah,
ah.
yeah, exactly. But she was just fun. She was just great, and she was my consoler many times of coming home from calls of having to put other people's children in body bag, or she was the shoulder to cry on, and
Right.
she was very sensitive, creative soul.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And at what age did you maybe notice? Did you ever notice that she might be,
have addiction.
yeah, or drinking or
And
drugs?
so she did, like in high school, she would drink a lot and party, and I just kind of we're in North Dakota.
Hmm.
So it's like small town North Dakota. And so she was just like the life of the party.
Hmm.
And then in 2019, she had jaw surgery. She had a congenital defect, like a bulldog jaw.
Okay.
And so she had a very large surgery. And the doctor, after her surgery, prescribed her Oxycontin.
Mm.
And less than 3 years after that, she's passed away.
And she died from an overdose of fentanyl.
Yes.
Okay.
And some people would get a little touchy about the word of overdose or poisoning, um, because there are some children that literally take something they don't. It is poisoned.
Mm.
However, my daughter struggled with addiction.
Okay.
Um,
Had she ever overdosed before?
Not that I'm aware of.
Hmm.
Nobody has ever told me that.
Hmm.
Um, and I didn't know it was bad as it was, you
Hmm.
know. So, um, yeah, I kind of watched this decline in her, and then I had to make the tough decision of what does a mom do?
Hmm.
You can't enable. And so I had to practice tough love and cut contact with her in November of 21.
Hmm. Did
Mhm.
she ever go to treatment or anything?
No, she never got that opportunity. She called me in May
Hmm.
to come home,
Hmm.
and I quit my job and I detoxed her.
Hmm.
Called many places and begged them to please take my daughter, please help my daughter. And, I think the system the way it is right now is hard because if they're an adult, they need to want to go to treatment. And Maya didn't want to go into a facility,
Hmm.
and I couldn't make her.
Hmm.
But I was begging people to help me save my daughter's life.
Hmm.
Um, that's why now it's so important for me to help other families navigate that system. You know, one day somebody's ready to be sober. And when that happens, you better move fast. And
Mhm.
so part of my mission is we help the families,
Mhm.
the mothers. I've had so many mothers call me and say, my child's going to die, please help me.
Mhm.
You know, and I'm dealing with that right now with a family in Minot.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so that's the struggle about it. And so Maya never got the help, never got to go to treatment, and that's why it's so important for me to give people that opportunity to
Right.
be able to do that.
Now that you lived it and she's gone, and you reflect on it, were there certain things that you didn't notice at first that you could notice now?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
what?
Um, well, a lot of her behaviors with her job, not going to work, um, calling me all hours of the day
Mm-hmm.
or not answering. Really the eye opener for me was in November, she called me, FaceTime me and showed me her legs. And she was just covered in bruises and scrapes. And at that time I knew in my paramedic brain, I knew, oh my gosh, we have a huge problem. Like this is really bad.
What was it from?
From her falling, like drinking, like, liver problems, malnutrition. She had lost a bunch of weight.
Okay.
She got like super skinny. And I just kind of thought it was, how girls, they go from like 10 years old and they're like chubby little things, and then they get to like 18 and they
Right.
slim out, and they get older, then they slim out more.
Mm-hmm.
And everything in my brain, I kept trying to rationalize
Mm-hmm.
everything that I was seeing, kind of like being in denial,
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to say, no, 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 she would never do that, being in that denial. And then when I finally went to go get her, like I knew it was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
The detox for her at home was just, it was miserable. It was really for us, and it
How
literally,
long did it take?
well, I don't think she ever fully detoxed. Like looking back now, I don't think she did. I think she was sober for a while, but she kept like going MIA all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to detox her at home, thinking that I could do it alone. Um, but we all know addiction is more than that, right? Like
Right.
we need help. Um, and so I don't think she was maybe sober more than 15 days before she died. Yeah.
Did was she at home when she passed away?
No, she left. She was going to the state fair with her dad and her little sister.
Mm-hmm.
She was really excited, and you know, looking back, I wish I would have known better.
So was it at the state fair?
It was it was not it was at the our family farm.
Okay.
And she was alone. Uh, but the problem was is earlier in that night she had been visibly intoxicated. I have some, like pictures on her phone and videos on her phone. For some reason she kept like a video journal of herself. And so at 8:30 that night she was visibly intoxicated. So as we know now, sometimes overdoses can take hours to happen.
Yeah.
Um, and so she had bought a pill at a location in Minot,
Mm-hmm.
and then went home to the farm and used later that evening.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so that was her final day, her
Mm-hmm.
final night. So,
How has how was the grieving how has the grieving process and the healing process been for you?
it's a day by day basis, kind of. Right away after she passed, I knew that with the background of being a paramedic and knowing, um, like the responders that came to the scene to my daughter were friends and colleagues I worked for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, And even in that moment of my final goodbye to my daughter in the ambulance, I wanted to be able to zip the bag up because I knew how hard it is as a mom and how hard it is as a paramedic
Mm-hmm.
to do that in front of parents. And so I didn't want to even put that on my colleagues.
So you did it?
I did. And the grieving process, right away, I knew I wanted to do something to help people. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. And I knew that I would be guided.
Mhm.
Higher power, right? I'm going to be guided. I always see signs. Um, I think helping people and speaking out and being Maya's voice has helped my grieving process a lot. Um, but I still have tough days, right?
Right.
Like we're coming up on 3-year anniversary soon.
Hmm.
Those days hit hard, it's hard.
How has it been for the rest of the family, like the younger sister or?
Yeah, so like my youngest daughter, Paige, as you saw on our website, she speaks out. She speaks at schools and such. She was there when Maya passed away. So um, she was 14, and if you just imagine being 14 years old and hearing your dad doing CPR on your sister and not being able to get out of that bedroom, like having to listen to that.
Hmm.
So I think she struggles with some of that. You know, I think it's just transformed our family differently.
Hmm.
We always make sure to say I love you,
Hmm.
right? Those last you never know when it's the last moment.
Right.
Um, kind of tighter knit. I'm a grandma now,
Hmm.
which is amazing.
Okay.
That's that's great.
Do they call you grandma or it's like Mima?
They always Mimi.
Mimi?
Yeah.
That's French for grandmother for people that don't know. I have a Mimi.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I definitely didn't want to be grandma,
Right.
But that was definitely my oldest daughter. She was pregnant when Maya died, and Maya was super excited to be an auntie.
Hmm.
And there's so many things. My granddaughter's going to be 3 in October, and oh boy, do I see that little Spitfire attitude.
Yeah.
Like definitely Maya, right? Like so it's fun. It's fun.
Right.
Just try to find joy in the days ahead,
Hmm.
not focus on the past.
How's your husband dealing with it?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, from the outside in, how does it seem?
Well, my husband's a very quiet person. He's not much of a communicator.
Hmm.
But I know that it was hard. Prior to Maya passing, it was hard having her at home.
Hmm.
Like it was tough on our marriage,
Right.
you know. And then having that sudden trauma. I mean, he's been great. He's been such a good support. Um, really helps and takes care of me a lot. So, I don't he doesn't get to there's no outlet really for him, kind of, I guess, because he's probably too scared to talk to me about his feelings.
Hmm.
Um, Scared to trigger me or make me cry, but um, I think he does pretty well.
Right. And at what point through all of this did the whole Maya's mission come about, or you speaking, or?
So it's crazy you asked that. So a year ago, March 16th, I remember the day.
Okay.
My friend said, I need you to call this guy and talk to him. I was like, I don't want to just call a random dude. And it was in the time where I was just like kind of in a down place. It's winter time here, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I called him and I was telling him about Maya's story, and he's like, I need to call you back. So initially, I thought that I probably made him mad or something. And then he called me back and he said, we had a sponsoree in my car and we were both crying, and she had a baby 4 weeks ago. He
Hmm.
said, do you know what that baby girl's name is?
Hmm.
Guess what it was?
Maya.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And he said, God is telling you to get here and start and come speak to the girls at Providence House. I was like, well, what do you want me to say? And he said, just exactly what you told me. And I said, okay. So I went and spoke, and I was it was amazing experience.
Hmm.
And so then I just started working with him, and we had the Providence Foundation at the time. And then in August of last year, we started Maya's Mission Grant,
Hmm.
and it just kind of transformed. And then at Christmas time, he called me this year and he said, just so you know, I changed the foundation name and I'm giving it to you.
Hmm.
Um, I changed it to Maya's Mission Foundation and it's yours. He said, I know you can
He
do
called
it.
you on Christmas and told you that?
It was like just before Christmas. Yep. Yeah.
That's a great Christmas present.
Yeah. And it took me a while to think about if I really wanted to do this. I've been a paramedic my whole life. I didn't You asked me 5 years ago if I would stand up in front of 600 people and speak. I would say hell no.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I found
Mm-hmm.
purpose in my life, and it's not just being a paramedic and saving lives on the ambulance. It's saving lives outside.
So can I tell you a secret?
Oh boy.
Well, just something I don't think I've ever told anybody. But when I was in high school, I had a friend that their parents were paramedics, EMTs,
Okay.
and in New Orleans they have a lot of shootings.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. Hmm.
it's just like you can any given day of the week you can turn on TV and 6 people have been murdered that day.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just how it is. And so he used to show me the picture. So I guess the paramedics used to take photos,
yeah.
and it's like fresh photos. It's like with their brains blown out and stuff.
Because it's
And then
great for education.
she used to bring them to school and show it to me like, oh, and I'm like, man, I know him, and stuff like that. And and that's the as close as I've been to a paramedic. Besides,
Okay. Yeah, yeah. It is, it happens here in North Dakota too. We have a lot of bad things that
right.
happen, and I've seen a lot of bad things.
Mhm.
I never experienced any outright symptoms of PTSD or anything. Maybe that, but I ignored.
Right.
And so part of that is why we have our Project 10-4 through a subsidiary of Maya's mission.
Okay. What is that?
So that is focused specifically on first responders and veterans,
Okay.
doing education, peer support. A lot of times, veterans kind of get handed a short stick.
That's me.
So, they'll have substance use, probably from PTSD or what
Hmm.
they've experienced serving their country. And then they are told they can only go to a certain facility to get rehab, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of times it's subpar.
Hmm.
And so through our Project 10-4, we can bridge that gap of financial barrier, right?
Hmm.
And help them get into a quality facility. Like they deserve better facilities than anybody, right? They
Right.
deserve better care. But recently in this last year, last couple of years, there's been 3 cops in Minot that have committed suicide, and I knew them. And so we forget about our first responders and our veterans. We
Hmm.
forget about that. And 1 in 5 first responders will suffer from substance use disorder in their lifetime.
Right.
That's high.
Yeah. Digging in the cookie jar.
And that happens too.
Right.
Yes.
But when I feel, I mean, if you saved a lot of people, but if you've been a EMT or a paramedic or a fire rescueman or a police officer for 20 years, you've seen a lot of stuff. You
I've
know what I
seen a
mean?
lot. Yeah.
You've seen people die in your arms. You've seen people get
Yeah.
saved. You've seen, so it will affect you over time.
Right. And actually, the very ambulance that Maya was in was the Velva ambulance. And that ambulance, years prior, I saved a man's life from committing suicide. And that very ambulance, I lost my first SIDS baby.
Mm,
So, like, it comes full circle. But I also go in and speak to first responders because a lot of us end up having compassion fatigue.
that's right.
Do you know what that means? Like,
Yeah,
we get
caring too much.
well, that, and it's also we call them salty. They're all salty paramedics or old salty EMTs because they just you just dump your adrenal glands of your adrenaline and everything, and soon you just don't care anymore. You treat everybody kind
Mhm.
of bad.
You get kind of
Sometimes
numb.
you get numb. And
Hmm.
so that's what I want the message to go out to other first responders is there's like my daughter, there's a person behind that face, a person behind that overdose. It's not just another overdose on the day. I mean, years ago, I went to a girl 3 times in a 24-hour shift that she overdosed 3 times in that shift.
Mm,
And give her Narcan, she'd come back, she'd go use again. And by the third time, it was a horrible feeling inside of me of like, why are we doing this?
right.
You know, but we have to remember that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's friend, that's somebody's sister. Right. We need to treat them with our hearts and our compassion.
I can
Um,
relate 100%. What do you think about these mixture of drugs and this new stuff that they're doing and putting in the fentanyl that the Narcan doesn't work on?
those are called nitazines. My next week I'll be in Medora, and next week after that I'll be in Dickinson. doing speaking, and I'm going to be speaking on the new drug trends that are coming through.
Okay.
I just had a meeting with the DEA about it, and we're shifting from pills to powder. And do you want to know what the biggest binder that they're using right now? 100% in the Midwest of one of the binders in there.
What is?
Diphenhydramine. Do you know what that is?
I don't have a clue.
It's
Too many,
Benadryl.
too many letters.
Yeah, that's Benadryl.
Mhm.
So, and then the xylazine. Also, carfentanil is starting to really make a shift. It's kind of interesting to learn about the drug trends.
So when they bind it with Benadryl,
They bind it with lidocaine too.
right?
Like it's crazy.
So so that's making people overdose more, or
It's just what's just the labs are seeing of what they're testing with the drugs that are coming in. So usually they're polysubstance drugs, so numerous amounts of drugs. I mean, it comes from they're using just regular baking soda. I'm sure you know that stuff,
Mhm.
right? Um, but also the DEA, when they do test drugs, they can usually tell which cartel it's coming from because of the precursor chemicals that they're using.
Okay.
Um, and so right now with the Midwest where we are, they're fighting between normally our stuff is coming from Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
The West Coast is starting to send over. So we're starting to see, possibly going to see more of a cartel
Mm-hmm.
territory war
Mm-hmm.
through the Midwest here. Montana has had a huge uptick in drug seizures. And so I think when they're coming from from the West Coast through over here, through Minneapolis, through this route, they're getting seized. So we're
Right.
seeing more seizures in Montana, also from the Canadian border coming down and
Right.
pushing drugs down.
But I know when I first moved to North Dakota, and people were like, this is before I got sober and saved, and people were like, Minot's the spot. It's just,
Yeah.
and another person told me one time it's the location of it on the map.
Mhm.
I'm not, I'm not sure, but they said that like people coming from this way, people come from this way, and then it's just a lot of.
Well, and also you have the Air Force Base,
Mm-hmm.
and you also have oil country,
Mm-hmm.
oil field. Minot, I think when I was in high school, this was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Minot was like a dirty, icky town. We just didn't go there. You
Right.
know what I mean? It was just I shouldn't dog down on Minot. It's a
Right.
great town,
Right.
but there is a lot of activity there, and it's also close to the reservations. So
Mm-hmm.
it's right between Belcourt and Newtown. And it is very well known that the cartels target Indian country,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the legal term is Indian country.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because they think that they can't get prosecuted. There's less law enforcement, there's less oversight,
Mm-hmm.
and so there's a lot of traffic between there. So
Right.
yeah.
Um, what's the biggest seizure that you've heard about in North Dakota, or in Minot, or wherever?
So okay, I might butcher the poundage on this.
Uh-huh.
When I spoke in Devil's Lake this last December, the BCI agent that spoke there also, I think it was 52 pounds at the Walmart in Devil's Lake
Oh, fentanyl?
of fentanyl. Um,
Yeah, that's a lot.
but I never saw it on the news, so you don't see some of that because it gets federally indicted.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest one I've heard of. Um, I guess I didn't come with statistics today. I know that they're saying that the seizures of fentanyl are the highest they've ever been.
Right.
Um, they're saying that the overdoses are lower, 24% lower. Um, I feel that's because of the access of Narcan, because it went over the counter. So through the state, I think last year it was like 900 or 700 there of actual reported saves from Narcan. The state does keep track of that.
Okay.
Uh, but that's only confirmed, right?
Right.
So we don't know if it happens if someone's saved on the street. They never call 911 or the cops, so we don't really know the accurate numbers.
Right. It. It.
Yeah, yeah. Right. And so like it would be nice to be able to know,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's why with Maya's mission, it's completely anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
You can report a save, you can get Narcan from us completely anonymously.
Mm-hmm. I think it's the Narcan and like all the sober livings and the peer support and just the public known
Right.
ways you can get, you know what I mean, people can get
Mhm.
sober.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not saying that people still not, there's a lot of people that ain't sober. You know
Right.
what I mean?
But it is a process, and sometimes it's a daunting task,
Hmm.
of when somebody's ready to make that decision that they're going to be sober, all the hoops and loops that you have to jump through to get to a facility. Some have waiting lists. Some, there are obviously there's open beds with there, but there's that process in there where you have to get the substance use voucher or you have to get insurance or
Yeah.
they have to be medically stable.
So is the SSD voucher still a thing?
The North Dakota substance use voucher, I do believe, is still a thing.
Okay.
We do have a link on our website at myasmission.org that you can go in and it takes you right to the site to be able to apply for that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do people get denied?
I don't know.
Right.
I mean, I actually don't really know that answer because I don't really know what it entails. I think it's like Medicaid.
Okay.
I think that when you get that voucher, then you're eligible for Medicaid. Um, See, that's where I'm at with an intervention for a family right now is the individual has been using, but then in sort of a psychosis state,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where she wants to be sober, but she doesn't because the withdrawals are bad.
Mm-hmm.
And here's mom saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so scared. What do I do?" And so, really, when we talk about addiction, there's so much collateral damage there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And part of me wishes I had somebody to guide me at that time, because some of the things us moms do are not good for our kids,
Mm-hmm.
right? We enable too much because we want to help and fix.
Right.
When your kid skins their knee when they're 3, you kiss it and put a band-aid on it. That's how we want to do. And in these situations, the best thing that you can do is let that person hit rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Let them make that choice because you can't make it for them.
Mm-hmm.
If you force them, they're not going to follow through.
Yep.
And so sitting back and giving those boundaries and saying, you can no longer live in my house. I will no longer give you money. Having to watch that is absolutely heart wrenching. And that's where moms and people need this support system where I didn't have that.
Right. And that's a great thing that you
Mhm.
figured out, and
I
so,
had to figure out the way. Yeah.
but you are doing amazing work in the communities.
Yeah.
So, do you have everyone in Carrington knows Myers Mission?
I hope so. It's only a town of 2,000 people. I mean, we don't even have a stoplight.
Yeah.
We got a roundabout,
Yeah.
which really messed people up for a while.
Right. You got the Chieftain.
Yep. Yep,
So
we
they
do.
sponsored me last year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a couple quarters of the
They
year.
have a good Indian taco bread.
I didn't know about that, but I
Yeah.
know they have a good breakfast bar on Sundays.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Yep.
do. Yeah.
And so, yeah, because like Carrington, New Rockford, Fessenden,
Yeah.
that whole area. Is there any treatment centers around there?
No, but there is one north of Candu,
Yeah, the Hartview one.
Heartview one. Yeah, and so that was the biggest challenge I had was after Maya passed away, driving home that
Hmm.
morning, was right away thinking about what is everybody in town going to think of me, right? Because we're such a small town.
Hmm.
And it was hard right away because of that stigma.
Hmm.
But you know what? Everybody there has been super supportive, super supportive. It's
Did she go to school in
she
Carrington?
did go to school there and she worked at the highway drive-in, but that's closed now.
Okay.
So last year when they finally closed officially forever,
Hmm.
they had a big memorial.
Hmm.
Um, with Maya stuff there and Twyla. She owned it. She was just amazing. Um, so yeah, like she was all American girl from a small town, worked at the Dairy Queen.
Hmm.
Um, you know, that's what we call it.
Hmm.
It's what normal like Tasty Freeze or something. But
Yeah.
so yeah, she went to school there. Um, Everybody knew her. She drove a bright yellow truck.
Right.
We'd get phone calls. We saw Maya taking a corner too fast. She was on 2 wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it a older bright truck?
Yeah, it is. It's
Oh,
we still have it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I got an older bright was green truck.
Green. Yeah, this was one was like yellow, like Big Bird yellow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I bet.
everybody knew.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, there's good times you can think about too.
Yeah.
some of the,
Yeah.
and
I try to remember my before addiction.
mhm,
Because with her addiction, she was not so nice sometimes,
right,
said pretty hateful things. But I always remember that that's the addiction. It
right.
wasn't. So
That's the
what,
demon.
that's the demon. And I talk about that. If you read I started a blog post
Hmm.
since I'm now laid up.
Hmm.
I started writing and some
Okay.
kind of blog post and talking about the stranger the devil leading my child away
Hmm.
behind a glass, and I couldn't help her.
Right,
It's exactly what it was. Yes.
right. And and one thing I noticed in my past is that it always started with alcohol. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
you say that all the time. Yep.
being like in the military when I was drinking alcohol, like everybody would pass out and we'd be in different countries
Hmm.
and I would be the one making sure we all got home.
Right,
You know what
right,
I mean?
right. Yep, that
But
was me.
then, and in Iraq, I did. They had people smuggling alcohol in Iraq and
Mhm.
Saudi Arabia and things like that. But I didn't drink because it was so hot, you know.
Right, right,
And
yeah.
I always vowed to myself, I'm gonna quit drinking, I'm gonna quit smoking cigarettes, and I'm gonna hit the gym every day.
Yeah.
And that worked. I mean, out there, I was able to do it, and then back home, it worked for about 3 days. I would
Right,
get
right.
back, and I'd fall right back into it. And then when I got out the military and moved back to New Orleans, uh, I'd be drunk, and then I would make some bad decisions. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what I tell kids when I go to the schools is, you know, why are you using that substance? Are you using it to cover your feelings up? Are you using it to be social? But that can also slip away from you pretty fast because when you're drinking, your inhibitions are down and you might take a pill
Right.
or snort a line and try it. Well, then with the game changing of the fentanyl and the drugs nowadays, literally you have no chance.
Hmm.
It's either a choice, one choice will change the trajectory of your life, and that's what's so important. And I feel changing, we can't ever take addiction away. Obviously, we know that. But how can we prevent it?
Hmm.
Well, starting with our kids young, let's educate them on mental health. Let's educate them on emotions. Let's normalize that because so many kids, and I know Maya did, had trauma, had feelings, and too much for her, and that was her way to numb herself. And I have a video of her that I use in my presentation of her saying that she doesn't want to hurt anymore. She just numb. She likes the comfortable numb.
Hmm.
It's a video,
Hmm.
so powerful.
Hmm.
To look back and not know my daughter was hurting like that because she was a smile on her face. So if we can normalize our mental health young, maybe we have a chance, right? We're
Right.
never going to eradicate it, but maybe we have a little bit of a chance. And
Hmm.
for them to understand the gateway drugs.
Right. And I get two of the number one questions that I've been hearing for years, and I love to talk about is what was your drug of choice? You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Well, at the beginning, it was ecstasy, but at the end, it was everything.
Everything.
Yeah, I wanted to be up, down, all around. I want to see stuff. I want to be fuzzy, all that.
Right.
But that's how much turmoil I had going on
Yeah.
inside of me. And
Hmm.
the other thing is, what's the gateway drug? And a lot of people throughout life they say is marijuana. Well, I smoked cigarettes before I did marijuana.
Hmm.
But what about sugar? You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean,
Right.
that's when
When
you study addiction,
the
like,
first time I learned that sugar was a real addictive substance is when I went to boot camp for the military.
and you didn't have it.
Yeah, we were all detoxing like you know what I mean, like addicts, like drug addicts. And because I remember that first Snickers bar I got
Oh
towards the
boy.
end. I got to
Yeah.
go on pass and we did good and we graduated.
Mm.
And I got to drink a Coke and a Snickers bar. And
Did you
it,
get sick?
no, I didn't get sick.
Oh,
I got really, really excited and hyper,
yeah.
And, but I could barely drink the Coca-Cola though.
Right,
It was
right.
like, ooh, this is kind of rough.
Like after you've not had a cigarette for a while, and then you smoke a cigarette, and you're
Right.
like, that's but so one thing that I'm looking into studying is something very interesting about how trauma, even as we're developing in the womb,
Hmm.
so your mom's emotional state, trauma, how it changes your epigenetics
Hmm.
throughout life. So it's not going to change your DNA, but it can definitely change the way your path is going to go in life. So,
Right.
you know, I mean, all of us have trauma, right? But how it changes and directs people differently in their life. It's very interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And I believe all of that,
Yeah.
but I also believe, so I'll give you a perfect example. My son was born a month early.
Mhm.
Drugs, cigarettes, alcohol was in his mom's body
Mhm.
while he was in the womb. He almost died. She almost died when birth was
Mhm.
what was happening. Uh, at 3.5, he still wasn't talking, wasn't potty trained, nothing. Right.
Right.
When I got him, I put in that work. You know what I mean? I didn't know what I was
Mhm.
doing, but I taught him. I trained him potty trained,
Mhm.
and this is when I know that he has still had smarts is because I bought the potty thing.
Yeah, yeah.
What it's called?
The body share?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
potty chair,
yeah.
and he wouldn't use it. Right?
Mhm.
Couldn't talk or nothing. I went to sleep. He went to sleep. He must have got up in the middle of the night, took his diaper down, and peed in there. Because when I looked in there in the morning when I went to the bathroom, they had pee in it for the first time, and I was like, "Boy, ain't that something?" Yeah, he got up and
Yeah.
so he does notice what's going on.
Right,
But
right,
then the speech therapy, the occupational therapy, the physical therapy, then the Montessori preschool.
right.
And so shout out to the Montessori preschool and every all the people that was assisting in his development.
Mhm.
I believe that really helped him. And so
That early intervention.
yeah,
Yep, yep.
and so uh, with the he does see a therapist regularly, and it teaches him how to handle emotions. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
And so I never realized how emotional I was when I was using drugs and alcohol. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I was really emotional. I
Right,
didn't think I ain't no emotional. I ain't no female,
right,
but I was so ignorant that somebody could call me and tell me something. I would drive across the state to kick their door in and go to jail.
right,
You
right.
know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly.
And
Yeah.
one thing I learned, it's not easy, but in the 12 steps of recovery and having mentors and things to keep practicing and training yourself like a muscle
Yes.
that you don't have to react emotionally when
Right.
something happens. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not perfect. Like I react to certain things, but it's not as bad as it used to. You
Right,
know,
right.
and so
Exactly.
and so um, that's one thing I self learned. You know,
Mhm.
and one thing I did too is like I always had my son with me. You know what I mean? Any
Mhm.
kind of recovery events, anything.
Right,
And I also started telling him when he understood why you shouldn't drink or do drugs
right.
ever. You know what I mean?
And so that's like when we talk about
But I wasn't taught that growing up.
no,
I was
no.
taught
Like I
this
was
is cool. You know, this is what you
right.
want to do.
That was their thing is back, everybody in my family, they would get together and drink and everybody get drunk or whatever. But when Maya was going through this and after she died, there's a lot of people that could have taken a choice of being angry and bitter at the world, right? Could be angry and say, God hates me. This is horrible. This is a ridiculous life. Or you can choose to do something good with it,
Hmm.
right? And I try to tell people God didn't take Maya from me. He rescued her. And he rescued her because I know in her life and where she was at the moment,
Hmm.
if anything would have happened to me, or there would be another breakup or another fight with her best friend, it was always going to be another excuse. You know what I mean? So if it didn't happen when it did, I do believe 100% God does things for a reason.
Hmm.
It sounds horrible, but you know what? God doesn't make mistakes, right? He doesn't make mistakes.
Amen.
And
Hallelujah.
he doesn't make mistakes. And this is my purpose, right? And he has something for me. And even though she can't physically be here with me, I know she's here with me. and I know she's guiding me.
Yes.
Because of her and her voice that was so loud in life, we're going to keep it loud in death and save other people. So God does not make mistakes.
Amen to
And I
that.
need other moms to know that when they're dealing with their grief, because some people just really turn it in and are bitter,
How
It
do
makes
you
me sad.
how do you find these parents, or do they find you? Like people that's been through the same thing.
Sometimes they find me. We actively look, but there's still some people that just they're not ready to talk yet. I'm doing a billboard project for the fair. Um, I
Are you gonna
wanna.
have a booth at the fair?
I don't know if it's gonna be that far yet, but we are doing the parade, state fair parade.
Oh, there's a parade
And it's televised. You guys should come.
through Minot?
Yeah, yeah, it's on
So
the
you're
19th.
marching or you have a float?
Well, you can have a float.
That's what you're gonna have?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Hand out candy, like buy 500 pounds of candy or something, they say.
Okay.
Um,
What
that's July 19th at 8 a.m.
is it, a weekend?
It's a Saturday, yeah.
Okay.
I'm actually looking for volunteers and people to help with it because kind of spread thin on a couple days there. But yeah, so they'll find me. Some are not ready, and so I've reached out to some. I wanted to include other local lives lost on the billboard to bring awareness. Um, Struggling with that. And it's fine, all in God's time. They'll, I'll cross paths with people when I'm supposed to and when they're ready. But anybody can reach out to me. My number, address, everything is on the website. So there's a mom out there thinking about doing something advocacy, reach out to me. Yeah.
Amen. You heard it straight from the
My phone's on 24/7.
the CEO of Maya's Mission.
Yes.
So I want to thank you for sharing all of that
Yes.
tonight. You have any places in the world that you dreamed of ever visiting?
Okay.
Have you ever left the country?
No, I'm scared to. I'm scared they won't let me back in.
Why?
I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
It was kind of rambunctious before cell
If they
phones.
don't let you in, you pull out your paramedic seats.
I guess I don't know. I'd like to probably visit Ireland one day. Or
Ireland?
actually, my dad and I had talked about walking like going to the Holy Land and walking the path. Like I would love to be able to do that.
The universe just heard it.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a little dangerous right now to be able to do over there. So,
Right.
well, my dad's getting older, so it'd be something I'd really like to be able to do with him. But
Yep.
yeah.
Well, that's great. I've thought about that as well. Yeah.
It'd be so amazing to walk that path
Right.
over there. You know.
As long as it's not a riot wherever you're
Yeah,
at.
like I would.
I don't think that they don't have that type of stuff happening in the holy places though.
Are they too though? There's like Gaza and like all the stuff that's going on over there. It's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I think it'd be nice and fun.
Right.
hmm
How did you pick the color purple for Maya's mission?
So it was when I was trying to plan her funeral. I wanted to do her funeral different. I wanted it so people were going to be impacted. And normally, when you have a funeral, they close the casket at the end of the church, and the family walks in. And I left her casket open until after her baptismal sponsors lit her baptismal candle. And then her dad and I stood up there and said our final goodbyes and had to do it in front of the whole congregation. And when I was planning all that, I just looked up overdose awareness and it was purple ribbon. And so, and the butterfly is significant of her eyebrows.
Okay. She has
And
butterfly eyebrows.
she had huge eyebrows and everybody used to make fun of her that they looked like caterpillars on her face.
Right.
And we always had dinner together at night. And my husband said she was kind of sad about being bullied about it or whatever. And my husband was like, just remember, honey, these caterpillars turn into beautiful butterflies one day.
Right. It's true.
And when we went to do all the flowers, there was like this huge metal butterfly sculptures on the wall. And it was just a goddism, a sign. And then I have butterflies in my backyard now. And
Okay.
so that's kind of how that came, was from her eyebrows, her caterpillar eyebrows.
Real butterflies in your backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah. You never used to see them
No,
before?
but now I pay attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you stop and you pay attention to those things
Yep.
and you listen and you let guide you, right?
Yep.
Hmm.
That is the truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, any new things coming up with Myers Mission? Any events, conferences, or things you're hosting?
Yeah, so I'm going to be present in Medora the 11th to the 13th for a conference. I'm pretty excited about. And then Dickinson on the 18th and 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know what else. I can't remember.
The
I
pa-
don't remember.
the parade.
The parade, got some golf tournaments that we're going to be doing. And other than that, I just kind of fly and see if someone. A lot of times, like if I have like an intervention call or something, that kind of I gotta go.
Yeah.
So
So anybody out there listening, if you're a parent, a family member of someone that has passed away from this deadly disease or is struggling, and uh, Maya's mission is here to help you. You reach out. If you're a veteran or a first responder, um, you can reach out to Maya's mission. They can help you get into treatment. You know,
and then also our Narcan boxes.
and where are those at?
Well,
All over the state, or
we're hoping to get them all over the state.
okay.
And those are just like old newspaper boxes. Like back in the day, you'd go put a quarter in,
Mhm,
trust your honesty.
mhm.
You're gonna take one paper or five. So then we stock them with Narcan. We have three around the state right now. I want to get some in Bismarck. So if there's anybody out there that has a business or wants to sponsor a box, let me know. Um, so we're wanting to get them all over the state.
Right.
Hmm.
Or you can even do like a vending machine.
Yeah, they do have those. Actually, there's one in Devil's Lake at the mini mall.
Mhm.
There's a vending machine for Narcan there.
There
Mhm.
is?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, when you go up there next
Y-
weekend, go check that out.
Yep.
Mm. Yeah.
Father's Day is coming up.
Yep, next weekend.
Is your husband getting some socks and fishing gear, or what he's getting?
Probably golf stuff.
Oh, he's a golf man.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should start
I
golfing.
think there should be a golf anonymous kind of,
Like people love it that much?
like my husband does, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I see a lot of people that love golf. I've actually never played golf in my life. Miniature golf.
Right,
I was a
yeah.
putt hero,
Yeah.
but I've never actually played like real true golf.
We could do like a whole event and do a fundraiser for us.
Mm-hmm.
Do a golf tournament here in Bismarck. They have a great golf course at Hawktree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be amazing.
Mhm.
I probably show up with a hockey stick like Happy Gilmore.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
No, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
Any words of wisdom out there to anybody that's listening that may need to get in treatment, may need help, they got a child that they're dealing with. What would you say to them?
You're not alone. I see you. I'm here. I've lived it. You're not alone. And
Amen.
you're worth it.
You are worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, any shout outs?
Who am I supposed to show up to?
Your husband,
Um,
your family,
Hi,
the people that support Minds Mission.
yeah, absolutely. All of our sponsors for our boxes, all the donors that have donated to My Mission or Providence Foundation, um, Providence House, Johnny and Morgan Lane. Absolutely. Johnny is a godsend and he is definitely sent here
So
from
that's
above.
so that's in oil country and in Fargo?
But no, the men's facilities in by Watford City and the women's is in Minot. And Minot is next month going to be doing the grand opening of the Women's and Children's Center. So
Okay.
a lot of times women don't go to treatment because they can't bring their children. And so this is an opportunity. And you just told me about one tonight that's
Yep.
here in Bismarck that's
Mhm.
building. So I think this is going to be a really game changer for a lot of women. And I hope they would open one for men
Right.
because they have to remember there's sometimes single dads too.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have you seen one
I've
anywhere?
never seen one.
I mean, that's the true thing.
We should do it.
Yeah, that's a real thing. I've met people that, I didn't get my son till I was so, after I was like,
Right. But there are people that do have their kids and they're
right,
men and they're single parents.
right.
So I think that would be something.
What about pets?
I would take in your pet while you go to treatment.
Yeah. What about a kennel that takes care of pets while people go to treatment?
Yeah, so like in Unigard, they built a kennel and they can house dogs,
Hmm.
and then the guys take care of them.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yep. So
Yeah.
in the prison they have a in the prisons in North Dakota they have a dog program, but it's not other people's dogs. It's
It's
just
a step. Like when I went to the women's prison, I was so nervous.
hmm
But then there was all these wonderful dogs there and it just made me feel better. But the staff bring in their dogs and for the inmates and stuff. I thought that was
right,
just great.
like a mascot.
Yeah, there was just cute dogs. I just loved it. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, amen to that.
Um,
Well, I want to thank you for coming.
thank you
I
for having
also
me.
want to thank you for your generous donation to Sober Talk so we can do that prison event in Jamestown. It helped out all the speakers.
Yes.
And so I really appreciate that.
Yes, I appreciate your messages in the morning, your inspirational messages
Hmm.
at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I do wake up early. But I'm gonna tell you why I do that. Some people think I'm crazy. Some people have blocked me through the. My sponsor told me I should always start my days off with doing something for somebody else because I
Yes.
never used to do nothing for nobody else. It was all about me, and I always wanted
Right.
my money, And so
Mhm.
I figured out, well, it was like five people at first. I
Mhm.
would just wake up every morning sending a positive message to somebody, and then it just expanded. And now it's like, I don't know, 250.
It's nice.
And
I
it's
love
not
it.
a group text.
No,
I,
it's
I
individual.
individually send a message, and I've been doing that for almost 8 years now.
That's awesome.
Every morning when I
I
wake up,
like it. I like it.
I truly feel when you get sober, start routines. You know what I mean? Because
Yes.
I got to a point in my life where I just didn't do nothing. I didn't work for a year and a half, 2 years, and that was like, always have a routine that
Because
you
if
do.
you're idle, you're more anxious and you're more likely to.
Right.
So one big shout out can I give out to Leroy up in Belcourt?
Leroy in Belcourt.
Sober May 21st for a year. He used to be a patient of mine.
Okay.
And he does that. He wakes up very early in the morning and he keeps his routine. And
Yeah.
he's just doing amazing. I'm so proud of him. It's been such a privilege to walk the journey with him
Mhm.
from where he was my patient and I was having to medically sedate him
Mhm.
to now where he's sober and just thriving and doing great. So
Right.
I
Well,
love it. Love recovery. I love people that are in recovery. And I think everybody's worth it. And everybody's loved.
and shout out to Shirley in the
Yeah,
hospital. We
Shirley.
hope you heal up well and strong. And I want to thank you for introducing me to Maya. That was
Yeah, Shani.
oh,
Shani and
oh,
Maya.
Maya's mission.
Yes, yes, that's where we came in because all because of Shirley.
Yeah,
So
Shani,
Shani, Shirley, yeah,
Maya's
Maya.
mission. You gotta keep Maya's mission alive.
Yeah. So Shirley, hopefully you heal up and then we can get together.
Right.
Mm.
Yep. So sending prayers to Shirley. And shout out to J Bowl, wherever you're at. I know you're extra spicy. And
Great show a minute ago.
yeah. He's at Buggies and Blues this weekend. Buggies and Blues in
Yes.
Mandan, North Dakota. There's a lot of great things.
I'll leave Narcan with you. Are you gonna be there? Or it's just
No.
Jay or he's gonna be there.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, you can still leave Narcan though.
I will. I will. I'll leave some. So if anybody needs Narcan locally, hit him up. I'm gonna give him some.
Yep. She's the plug.
Yep.
The Narcan plug.
Yeah. It's kind of bad to say.
But no, it's a great thing. Um, but
Yes.
I want to thank everybody for always tuning in to Sober Talk with Brother Brandon, the Raging Cajun. I want to give a shout out to Time for Second and New Freedom Center. Beds are available. Just call 701-527-4000. Also, shout out to Maya's Mission, CEO Shani.
Yay.
And you can contact her if you would like her to come speak or if you would need some of her assistance that she gives back to the community.
Mayasmission.org is the
Maya's
website.
Mission,
Go check it out.
mayasmission.org. You heard it straight from the head honcho.
Yeah.
I want to give a special shout out to Serenity Bridge Sober Living. I want to give a special shout out to the Ridge Treatment Center in Fargo, North Dakota. There's a great conference they're hosting on June 17th. It's a recovery and reentry conference. If you're a peer support, you can get CEUs uh, for attending, I believe, in person or virtually. So check that out if you need some CEUs for your peer support or care coordinator. Um, it's June 17th. Also, tonight's show is being sponsored by Painless Window Cleaning in Bismarck, North Dakota. Prairie Recovery Center. Prairie Recovery Center is having a barbecue tomorrow in Raleigh, North Dakota. It's a alumni and I believe a 5-year birthday.
It's at Pioneer Park, I think.
It's not in. It's not in,
I
at
think
the
it's
treatment center.
No, it's just I think it's here in Bismarck,
Oh,
Pioneer Park.
okay. Scratch that.
Volleyball, I think.
They're gonna have volleyball and a barbecue at Pioneer Park, straight from Derek. So if that's wrong, blame Derek. Also, I want to give a shout out to Preferred Heating and Air, Serenity Bridge Sober Living, and all the people that support Sober Talk, Resurrection Tattoo, Treasures of the Sea and Earth, and the House of Faith. I want to give a special shout out to all the prisons in North Dakota and the people that are in positions to be able to have events for the inmates, the reentry programs. It's helping out a lot. I want to give a shout out to Evangel Church. Um, there's a big movement in NDSP, maximum security prison. Evangel Church, I'm part of that as well. We go in there and have a service on Sundays and a midweek service as well, just hanging out with the guys and talking about the Lord. But thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sober Talk with Brother Brandon, the Raging Cajun. It's the weekend, baby. And if you can't stay sober, catch your Uber. And in the words of my great grand sponsor, Jack Height, if nobody told you yet, we love you, baby.
Sober Talk with Brother Brandon, the Raging Cajun. It's the weekend.